I almost cried with her as she answered this question for a couple of reasons. Number one, I almost cried with her because she's a friend of mine and has been a friend of mine for many years now. But the second reason I almost cried with her was because I could hear and feel her pain as she answered this question. The friend of whom I speak and I have been friends now for many years, and we both had the privilege recently of serving on a panel. We were part of a panel discussion for young Black entrepreneurs, and the panel discussion was all about some of the ups and downs of entrepreneurship and some of our keys to success and what has gotten us to the point in our careers where people come to us for advice. And we are both in that situation. The question that was asked, that I thought was a very good question, but it elicited a lot of emotions. The question that was asked by the moderator was this: what would you say is the biggest mistake you have made in business? What's the biggest mistake you've made as an entrepreneur? And as my friend began to answer that question, I could hear her voice cracking. Here's what she said. She said, my biggest mistake is that I'm on the verge of retirement now, and I spent more than 35 years climbing the ladder only to discover now at the end of my career that all this time my ladder was leaning against the wrong building. I had spent my entire career building up somebody else's business, building up somebody else's fortune, and now I'm retiring. And though I have a lot of respect in my industry, I don't have much else to show for it other than the respect of my colleagues. I don't have a legacy to leave behind because I built up somebody else's legacy. I don't have a fortune to leave behind because I helped the person I work for build their fortune. I had my ladder against the wrong building. And it brought tears to her eyes and almost brought tears to mine. Welcome back to the Dr. Derrick Noble Show. For those of you who are joining us, we are in the midst of a series on making the transition from being an employee to being the leader. Now, for those of you who are happy where you are, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. There are some people who would rather be a supporting actor than to be the lead actor. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Blossom wherever you are, bloom wherever you are. There are some people who don't want to be the coach. They want to be the top player. There are some people who don't want to be the coach. They want to be the assistant coach. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. There are some people in ministry who never want to be a senior pastor. They're happy being an executive pastor or the associate pastor or the women's pastor or the whatever the case may be. You don't have to be the quote unquote top dog. There's nothing wrong with being in the second seat or the third seat. But that's not for everybody. There are some people who, like my friend, deep down inside, you know you have what it takes to be the CEO. And you've spent all this time building somebody else's reputation or building somebody else's fortune, and you don't have anything to show for it with your name on it. If that's the situation you're in, if you are saying, you know, I'm enjoying being an employee and I'm good at what I do, but I know I have what it takes to be the boss. I know I have what it takes to be the CEO. I know I have what it takes to start my own company. If that's you, I want you to continue listening. If it's not you, but you know somebody that describes, then I want you to give them this recording, this audio, this video, or if you're listening to me on KGGR there in Dallas, call your friend up and say, hey, turn on the radio, the KGGR. You need to hear this dude named Derrick talk to you about making the transition from being an employee to being the boss. That's what these next few weeks are all about. I don't want you to get to the end of your career like my friend, spending 35 years building up somebody else's financial coaching program or somebody else's financial coaching organization, only to realize, you know what? I could have done that for myself. I could have something that has my name on it, and I could leave something to my children and my grandchildren. But now I've spent my life building somebody else's fortune, building somebody else's company, building somebody else's name. If you're in that situation, I want you to listen closely. We've already talked about some of the things that you need to do in order to move from employee to CEO, boss, director, supervisor, whatever phrase you want to use. One of the things we said a couple of weeks ago when we started this series, the first thing we said was you need to develop self-awareness. If you're going to make the leap from being an employee to being the manager, the supervisor, the leader, first of all, you need to develop self-awareness. And as we talked about self-awareness, we talked about strengths. You need to know your strengths. You need to know your weaknesses. You need to know your values. In other words, you need to know what you stand for. You need to be clear about that. You need to know your personality style, and you need to know your leadership style. So we talked about that a few weeks ago. Then last week, we talked about setting clear goals. The second thing you need to do if you're going to make the leap from employee to leader, you not only need to have self-awareness, but you need to set clear goals. You need to define your career goals and create a plan that will get you there. Now, in that topic of career goals, we talked about short-term goals. Everybody remember this? And we talked about long-term goals. And then toward the end of last week's broadcast, last week's video, depending upon whether you're listening to me on the radio or watching me on my YouTube channel series, the last thing I gave you last week before we said goodbye was I gave you a homework assignment. Remember, we talked about goals, and I said your goals need to be SMART goals, and SMART is an acrostic, S-M-A-R-T. And I was about to tell you what SMART goals were, but then I decided to give it to you as a homework assignment. There's a reason why I did that, and I'm going to keep doing things like that for you. Listen to me closely. As a leader, there is no excuse in this day and age with all the information you have available to you. There is no excuse for a leader to be walking in ignorance. And ignorance is not an insult. The word ignorant simply means not knowing. We've all been ignorant about something in our lives, okay? So ignorance is not an insult. But as a leader, you cannot afford, you can ill afford to walk around in ignorance all the time. If there's a question or a problem before you, stop waiting for Superman or Supergirl or whoever it is to come and bail you out. Stop waiting for your knight or your princess in shining armor, whoever it may be. Stop waiting for somebody to come and rescue you. As a leader, you need to take initiative and figure out what to do. I'll give you a personal example. Years ago, when I was a young executive, I was walking into an organization that had been through some turmoil. I won't get specific, but they had been through some turmoil, and some of it revolved around my predecessor. And so now they had trust issues because my predecessor allegedly did some things that may have bordered on unethical, and they had to leave and blah, blah, blah. It got really nasty. But nonetheless, I came into this organization with a bunch of people who had been through some mess. And now here I am, young, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and automatically, without me even opening my mouth, many of these people didn't trust me. Not because I had done anything, because I hadn't been there long enough to do anything, but because of their past experiences. I knew this organization had potential, but I also knew they had some baggage based on their past. I needed to know how to come in as a young executive and fire this place up and acknowledge their past, but get them to understand that they can't get stuck in their past. What do I need to do? So there was a really good book on a similar subject, not a similar subject. There was a really good book on that subject. It was a best-selling book that talked to young business executives about how to go into a company that was failing, falling, whatever the case may be, basically how to turn an organization around. This organization is falling. How do I come in young, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, or whether you're young or not, doesn't mean young, age is just a number. But how do I come into this organization and turn it around after they've been through some mess? It was a great book, and it was an international bestseller. So guess what I did? As a new young executive, I did not come into that organization saying, gee, I hope somebody tells me what to do. I took the bull by the horn, so to speak. I found the guy who authored that book. I looked at his website. I took all this initiative on my own. And this was years ago. This was before the internet was as popular as it is now. And if I remember correctly, this was before Google was big. So I couldn't Google anything. I mean, once upon a time, boys and girls, there was something called a phone book. Once upon a time, there was something called the Chamber of Commerce, and you called somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody who could introduce you to the person that. So the search was even harder back during that time. I mean, you guys really, y'all have it easy now. It's everything at your fingertips. My point is this. I took the initiative to hunt that guy down And I flew down to, because he lived in another state, I flew down to where he was and I paid him for his time. And I sat at his feet, so to speak, and learned some tips for how to turn that organization around. Okay. As a leader, you've got to learn to take the initiative and not always want to be spoon fed things. So that's why I told you to look up what SMART goals are. And you know what? I was about to do a review of SMART goals, but I'm not going to, because I just gave you an assignment. If you're not familiar with what SMART goals are, go to Google, type in SMART goals. I guarantee you there will be lots and lots of articles, and learn what a SMART goal is and learn how to turn your goals into SMART goals. Now, if you're like I was, you're a young executive and you want somebody to mentor you and walk you through the process, then by all means, reach out to me, Derrick at DerrickLewisNoble.com. That's DerrickDerrick at DerrickLewisNoble.com. Reach out to me and I will mentor you just like that person mentored me, but he didn't do it for free and neither will I. And again, I'm not embarrassed about that. If it's important to you, you'll make the investment. Now, I can walk with you step by step, page by page, or if you want to just take the initiative and do it on your own, by all means, whatever you do, do it. Either get a coach or learn everything on your own. Sometimes I think it'll be faster with a coach, but hey, if you can do it on your own, do it on your own. But those of you who would like somebody to partner with you who's been there, reach out to me. I'd be glad to do that. That's what he did for me, and that's what I'm passing on to other people. So learn what a SMART goal is. So if you're going to make the move, you're going to make the leap from being an employee to being the leader. First of all, you need to develop self-awareness. Secondly, you need to set clear goals, and you need to learn the difference between short-term goals, long-term goals, and whatever goal you set, it needs to be a SMART goal, SMART. So look those up. And now we are at the third step. There are many steps you need to take in order to make the leap from being an employee to being a leader. The third step is learn continuously. Or you may want to say it this way: leaders are learners. Become a learner. First of all, develop self-awareness. Secondly, set clear goals. But third step in becoming a leader after having been an employee is to be a continual learner. Be a lifelong learner. Understand that a call to leadership is a call to preparation. A call to leadership is a call to learning, okay? Invest in your education and your development. And that's why I said just a few seconds ago, and I feel absolutely no shame about that. When people ask me, will you mentor me, Dr. Noble, can you help me? And I say yes, and there is a cost associated with that, okay? Now watch this. You can say, well, God gave it to you freely. So, y'all, do you have bills you need to pay? Yeah. You have a house note? Yeah. You have a car note? Yeah. You got to buy food. You need to stop making excuses for making a living. We all do what we do to make a living. And if there's something important to you, it's worth investing in. Now, if it's not important to you, don't invest. Okay. But that's okay. But don't make any excuses. There was somebody, I did a presentation at a university not too long ago, and I'm going to be doing some more work with that university. But one of the higher ranking officials at that university, it's on the East Coast, one of the higher ranking officials at that university pulled me off to the side and said, you know what, I need a leadership coach because I love what I do around here, but one day I want to be the president of a college. I want to be the president of a university myself, and I need some tips on how to get there and how to become the type of leader I want to become. And this person asked me, now they said, I'm willing to make the investment and ask you to be my coach. And then when I told them what the investment was, they said, "Whoa, that's a lot." I said, "Yes, it is. For some people, that's a lot." And that's the first lesson I'm going to teach you. Know your worth and don't settle. Okay. Know what you're worth and don't settle for anything less. Now, do you want to be a learner? Because learners are people. I can't tell you how many times I have on my way to becoming a leader, on my way to becoming an entrepreneur, on my way to becoming successful. I can't tell you how much I invested with people and systems and books and things of that nature, because watch this. I understand, and what I'm trying to get you to understand is that a call to leadership is a call to learning. You need to be up to your armpits in books. and articles. For those of you who are pastors, okay, or those of you who aspire to be a pastor, maybe you're a staff pastor right now. Maybe you're the director of children and youth, or maybe you're the director of the women's ministry, whatever the case may be. You're not the senior pastor, but you sense God's call. Now, this is a little bit different than being the CEO of a corporation, although I do see leadership as a calling, whether it's leadership in the church or leadership in a nonprofit organization or leadership in a for-profit organization. But specifically when it comes to ministry, you have to have a genuine or sense a genuine call of God. Not this is something I want to do, but this is something I truly believe God created me to do. Now, if you're in that situation and you believe God wants you to be a senior pastor, whether that means going into an established church or starting a church on your own, being a sponsored church plant, whatever the case may be, if you're going to be a pastor and you're somebody who doesn't like to read, let me just say to you, this is probably not something God is leading you to do. I'm not God. However, as a leader, one thing I do know is that leadership is a call to learning. So if you want to be a pastor one day, you need to be up to your armpits in books about what it means to be a successful leader in a faith-based organization. And you need to talk to people who've done it and done it successfully. There are tons of books and articles and videos and learning systems out there for how to make that leap and how to grow a church and how to care for people and how to do pastoral care and how to walk side by side with people as they're going through terminal illness and things of that nature. There are tons of books and articles out there. If you're not somebody who's reading on a regular basis in order to grow your skill, then maybe leadership is not for you, because a call to lead is a call to learn. So let me just ask you, what was the last book you read that's relevant to you in your industry? Let's say you're not in the faith-based industry. You're in a for-profit organization. Let's say you want to be the CEO of an engineering company, okay? When was the last book or article you read about being a CEO or the engineering industry? What are the common periodicals? I can give you a really good example. Remember that person I told you who said they wanted to hire me as a coach? And by the way, she ended up hiring me as a coach, and she has been growing and she's been learning, and she says it's the best investment she ever made. But one of the things that I said to her when I first started with her was, I said, there is a periodical called, I forget the exact name of it, but it's something like Issues in Black Higher Education. And she said that one of her goals is to be the president of an HBCU, historically Black college or university. So I said, are you familiar with this periodical? And she said, no. I said, okay, get off the Zoom call with me right now, go online and find that periodical and subscribe and start reading it on a regular basis. There's another one called Chronicles in Higher Education. So I gave her a whole laundry list of professional journals that educators at the collegiate and university level need to be reading on a regular basis. And I said that you may even want to start writing some articles and submitting some articles so people in that industry will start seeing you and knowing your name and knowing your face. See, a call to leadership, I'm going to say this until you start saying it in your sleep. A call to leadership is a call to learn. You cannot be a leader if you're not willing to continuously learn. So when was the last time you got a book relevant to your industry? When was the last time you read an article relevant to your industry? When was the last time you attended a conference or convention relevant to your industry? Okay, I was speaking to somebody not too long ago who aspires to be the director of HR at their company. They work in the HR department now. Their goal is to be the director of HR. Okay, you see the difference there? They're an employee in the HR department. Their goal is, because they know their HR director has publicly said she's going to be retiring in 2 years. This person is already thinking, I don't just want to be an employee, although there's nothing wrong with remaining an employee in HR, but this person aspires to be the HR director. I said to her, there is an organization called IPMA. I have spoken for IPMA in the past. It's called it stands for International Personnel Management Association, the International Personnel Management Association. In other words, it's the organization of HR directors from organizations all around the world, HR directors of nonprofits, HR directors of for-profits, HR directors of Fortune 500 companies, HR directors for colleges, universities. It is the organization of HR directors, and every quarter they have, they have the international organization, then they have the national organization, then they have the local organization, statewide organization, citywide. I said, are you a member of IPMA? If not, you need to join. Then you need to get active. You need to start going to your local IPMA conferences. If they have a meeting every month, you need to be there. Then if they have a quarterly meeting for the Southeastern region of IPMA, you need to go to that quarterly conference. If they have a national conference, and I do know they have this because I've spoken at it, if they have a national conference for IPMA or international conference, you need to put that on your calendar every year. Everybody see my point here? If you're going to be the director of HR, you need to be continually learning about the changes in HR and how to be better at HR. And these conventions and these organizations give you the opportunity to learn these things. I was talking to a young pastor not too long ago. There is an organization that I'm going to be speaking for in March. It's a national gathering of pastors. Okay. And I'm going to be the keynote speaker, preacher, speaker. I'm doing messages and I'm teaching classes there for them. I'm going to be their keynoter in March of next year. Well, this person is a young pastor. And I said to him, have you ever gone to this convention? He said, no. I said, put it on your calendar. Okay. Whatever the case may be, you need to be willing to learn and to grow. Now, let me help you with something. If you honestly believe that you already know all there is to know about your industry, whatever your industry may be, do us all a favor and quit. And I don't make any bones about that. If you honestly think there's nothing more for you to learn, you, sir, you, ma'am, you, whoever you are an ineffective leader. To be an effective leader, you've got to understand, I don't know everything. Listen to me, folks. I've been doing this type of stuff for 25 years, and I'm still reading books. And I'm still reading articles, and I have been a leader for years. I've been given awards for leadership. I was recognized as one of the top Black entrepreneurs in the city of LA. One of the top in the city of LA. That's not a small feat. And guess what? I still go to conferences where I'm not the keynote speaker. I go to conferences so I can learn. I get on some of these LinkedIn calls and watch some of these YouTube videos from people who've been doing it for a while. And you know what? And it's right here at my desk to prove it to you. I have notes that I take on all of these things. I'm still watching videos. I'm still learning on a regular basis, because even though I have done this for 25 years, even though people come to me and ask me to show them what to do, even though some people see me as an expert in my industry, I realize I do not know everything there is to know. So if I'm going to be an effective leader, I'm going to be a lifelong learner. If you're honestly at the point where you think there's nothing more for you to learn, you are an ineffective leader. Leaders are learners. A call to lead is a call to learn. So take courses, attend workshops, read books on leadership, read books on management, read books on relevant industry topics, and get around people who are doing what you're doing. Again, iron sharpens iron. You all have heard that before. For those of you who want to be pastors, get around some successful pastors and learn what success is all about. I could just do an entire broadcast on what success is. Let me just help you with this. Now, this is the Derrick Noble definition of success. This is my definition of success. My point here is that you need to have a clear definition of success, whatever it is. But this is the Derrick Noble definition of success. Everybody ready? My definition of success is knowing what I have been placed on this earth to do and doing it every day of my life in some way. Knowing what I've been placed on earth to do. Part of what I've been placed on earth to do, and this has been my mantra since the age of 16. This is no joke, y'all. This has been my mantra since the age of 16. I exist to speak truth into the lives of others, thereby helping them to improve their lives for the better. Did you notice I didn't have to look at any notes for that? That's been in my head and in my heart since the age of 16. I was a high school student. when I adopted that. And I'll give credit where credit is due. I got that from the late, great Daisy Bates. For those of you who are familiar with Little Rock, Arkansas, in 1957, Little Rock Central High School, my high school from which I graduated in 1988, Little Rock Central was the site of school integration. And Governor Faubus, the Arkansas governor, did not want Black students going to this all-white high school. So President Eisenhower sent the U.S. military down there to escort those Black children against the governor's wishes. So it's basically a standoff between the federal government and the government of Arkansas. And the federal government won, thank God. President Eisenhower said, you are not going to prevent these Black students from going to school. The lady who led that fight was a lady named Daisy Bates. One of those 9 children, by the way, who went into Little Rock Central is somebody that I now consider to be my mom. And she is the one who wrote the foreword for my book. Those of you who have read the book, my book, #1 international bestseller, is entitled Leadership Launch. And the subtitle is Essential Skills for New Leaders. It's available on my website. It's available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. You can go to the physical stores. If they don't have it at the physical store, they can order it for you, or you can just order it online at my website or at Amazon or at Barnes & Noble. The lady who wrote the foreword, Melba Patillo Beals, was one of the 9 students that Miss Daisy Bates helped to escort into that school back in 1957. Daisy Bates said something years ago that has stuck with me, and I continue to quote it. She said that to me. She's passed it on to other people, and now I've passed it on to you. I want you to take those words and run with those words. If you're going to be a leader, you've got to be willing to learn and to grow. That's what leadership is all about. My time is out. Next week, I'm going to talk to you about the importance of feedback. If you're going to be an effective leader, if you're going to make the jump from being an employee to being a leader, that you need to learn how to seek feedback and from whom to seek feedback. So we'll talk about that next week. I'm out of time. Thank you for listening or watching, whatever the case may be. Join me again next time as we continue to help you make the leap from being an employee to being a leader. Thank you very much.